I've had VP positions in operations. I ran over 130 stores. Training in the communications world, I was handling that department for them. And then most recently, when I left in '09, 5 years prior to leaving in '09, I was the VP of mergers and acquisitions. So I saw the M&A world in the pawn industry from the buyer perspective. And so all three of those areas, operations, training, human resources, and then mergers and acquisitions, that's what I roll into my strategy when I talk to folks about this topic about being prepared for the business, for selling your business. And I kind of dialed that up a little bit more and switched the other side of the transaction about 10 years ago. And in '09, I started Stallcup Group, and now I represent sellers. So I took all that I had, all that I learned in the 23 years with Cash America, and kind of deployed that into my business model and my strategy with representing sellers when they're ready to exit.
Yeah, and that's great because you understand all sides of it, and you understand the angst that they have from an operations standpoint. And I think the other thing that's interesting is, when I got into this into the pawn world, I actually got into merger and acquisition too. But what I disliked was the brokering of the deals and all that kind of stuff. What I loved about was getting in there and getting my hands dirty in the operations and getting them to be as profitable as possible, or as soon as possible. And so you and I are a nice complement in that sense. But on the flip side of it too, my understanding would be you'd probably have the ability to say, if you did this in your operations, that's going to drastically change how much your business is worth, right?
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think that's one of the most misunderstood things when they're ready to sell, ready to exit the business, and you're considering your options. Unless you're going to do this forever, which I don't think anybody wants to stay in the pawn business forever and ever. And they may even think that they're going to pass it along to their children, and that's an option always that you can consider. But what we want to bring, and what I want to stress to everybody is that know your options. Don't think that you don't have another option. Just even though you may think you're leaning towards giving your business to your children, but you need to look at all of the options. But as far as when you drive up to a store or you have a chain of stores, you need to look at it if you're thinking about exiting the business. Think about it from the buyer's perspective, because the buyer is really the one you're going to be going to battle with, and that's really what it is. It's a battle on every front. Everything you negotiate, everything is a negotiation, especially if you own the building. There's going to be a lease discussion or even a sale negotiation. But there are some levers you can pull, some things you can do. But beyond that, the things that you need to prepare for is the strategy before you engage with buyers. And there's a lot of things that we will cover at the show, at the expo, and that's what we want to share with you. But it's not just a strategy about how your store looks, if your numbers are in order, and are we buttoned up in all of the areas. That's obviously where you definitely want to cover all those. But there's a strategy and a methodology and a sequence by which that you go attack the negotiations, and those are the things that we'll cover in the time allotted in September. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it too, because those are the things that bring anxiety to our clients, and the other thing that brings anxiety to them is the fact that, this is their baby, and, they've had it for 30 or 40 years. It's been in the family, and now they're at a point where they're going to sell it, and someone's going to come in and talk about, well, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or it's only valued at this in our mind. And that becomes an emotional thing too, outside of the business world. And so I would assume that becomes challenging as well.
Absolutely, it is. There is the emotional aspect of it. Almost without fail, there's always seller's remorse that I see, and there's the emotional factor of where your employees be taken care of. But there are also some things you can do to make sure that those things are going to happen the way you want them to. But it is a high anxiety time. There's bad information out there. I mean, I've done, like I said, doing this. I'm on my 33rd year, and I guess specifically in the M&A world since '05, and I hear all of the crazy bad information that's out there, and we want to kind of right that. But when you're sitting there trying to value your business or think what it's worth, and you hear these different strategies of methodology of valuation of your business, it scares me. It's really scary, and I know businesses are sold on those principles, and so we're trying to get the word out and make people understand whether you use us to help you or not. You need to know these things that you have to do, and we've provided a checklist. It's up on our website and so forth. There's things you want to go through and make sure that you do these, no matter what you do. But it is a time of high anxiety, and there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it, and you don't want to get wrapped up in all the bad information, bad advice that's out there. And most people don't even know the intrinsic value add items that are part of their business, their pawn shop, whether it's one store or 15 stores. There are things that you haven't thought of that you really should look at as a value add and monetize, and then factor that into your sequence negotiation. So there's a lot more to it.
I agree.
Than people think.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate what you said so much, because honestly, there is a lot of misinformation out there, and you can probably believe what we hear out there in this industry about what their business is worth or what people's opinion of what it's worth. And there's so much misinformation, which is why I push pretty hard to bring you in, to get you in here. And I didn't have to twist your arm too much, thankfully, but I'm glad to have you as part of this deal and get you into this group, because I think there's so much education that needs to be passed down. And, speaking of education, I know you're at NPA every year. And I want to talk a little bit about that when you're at NPA, and, if you're going to maybe attend some other expos, or what kind of your history is with that.
Sure. Yeah. So I've attended the NPA, I guess, every single year that I've been on the sell side of the business. I really didn't do so when I was with Cash America, but since '09, I've been there every year. And I've done a couple of regional shows, and I wish I could do them all. I just don't. I pretty much do the NPA Expo, and that's it. And that's really because I want to be there and do them all, and I can't do them all because, when you're selling, we sold 4 companies the first part of this year, the first quarter of this year, and there's not a schedule. It's really an ad hoc type schedule. It's not written in stone, and
yeah.
it's very fluid. And so I found myself signing up for some of these regional shows and just having to cancel or back out at the last minute, and it's not worth doing. And I don't want to send someone else to represent me, in what I say, because it's a very personal type message that I have for sellers that are seriously considering. So I just do the NPA, but I'm looking forward for this to be the second one I do, the number 2 show of the year, and hopefully there'll be a lot more of these that you put on, and I can be part of it.
Yeah, there definitely will, I think, based on the excitement. And so, it's a good segue into, kind of why this event. I mean, if you've done, NPA and some others when you can, I mean, why did you set aside this time to do that?
Sure.
Our listeners are curious.
Well, I mean, you and I have been talking for a year or 2 years at least, I think, and you have a great reputation out there. It all comes back positive when I hear people talk about you and your company. So I think you have that credibility when you're putting this thing together. So I want to be part of that. I think that's an exciting piece, and all the things the other guys covered. There's a lot of noise in the other shows, a lot of big time shows, and you have competing events, breakout events. But I think the folks that really do want to learn about these topics, they're going to be at this show, at this program, and I think that says a lot. It's going to be a very good message, concentrated message, and they're there for a reason. And there's something, one or all of the topics that they want to hear about, and they're going to have an opportunity to see that and hear and talk directly with us. So I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, and I appreciate that. I mean, all the stuff that it's good to know that people talk highly of us because they speak highly of you as well, and that's who we want to surround ourselves with, people that can change this industry for good. And so, lastly, I mean, your last thoughts, kind of closing thoughts, how do you think this event will help the industry and the education around it?
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I just think when you look at the topics, those are topics that aren't that every single business owner in this industry has to deal with at one point or another. And so I think that's a good opportunity. They're going to get to hear all of them and not just have to pick and choose. And I think when you have that group of pawnbroker business owners that are going to be focused on those things, and they're there to learn. They're there for a reason, and there's not a lot of this other activity going on that may detract from the message. But and this is a great lineup. I applaud you. Hats off to you. It's really quality folks you have, and they're experts in their own field. And so I think that's the thing that's going to separate this group from this show from the other ones. And I'm just excited to be part of it. And I think that it's going to be a very high intense value add opportunity for these business owners to learn about critical strategies.
I agree, and I like what you said in the sense that I think the cream always rises to the top, and I'm excited about the talent. They always want to, good people always want to be around other good people, and that's really, I believe, how this event came to be. I definitely can't do it all on my own, and I'm excited about you and the other presenters that we have, and there's even more that are going to be on this call today. But I'm excited about it, and we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here today. And we're excited about hearing more about your topic as it comes a little bit closer to the summer and into September. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.